A reading from What If It's Wonderful? Release your fears, choose joy, and find the courage to celebrate. This is from page 6. There are many faces of self-preservation when life feels unsafe. Behaviors we use as a shield to protect ourselves from pain. You might blame someone else, thinking of all the ways the other person could be different so that you might feel okay. You could anesthetize your pain by binging on pleasures that numb but do not satisfy, such as television, food, or online shopping, only to confront the same pain when the credits roll, the plate is scraped clear, or the bill comes. Or maybe you cope with your pain by becoming your own merciless critic, refusing to see, let alone name, anything good in yourself. For me, when life begins to feel perilous, I mostly rely on control to keep the plate spinning. I imagine the worst possible outcome for an event and decide that this tragic scenario is actually my reality. In my profession, we call that catastrophizing. I do this in hopes that no pain will surprise me. The problem here, of course, is that I not only anticipate the worst case scenario, I live it in my mind. Some might even say that I choose it. This refusal of hope, joy, and celebration may not sound like control as we typically define it, but that's what it is. Managing my emotions and becoming invulnerable to life in all its gorgeously vibrant emotion in the process. Other voices like God's word and the kind encouragement from people who love me try to assuage my fears, inject hope into my heart, and allow me to borrow the courage I need to celebrate the joy in my life. I experience the truth as a balm for my fear-sick soul as I hear it in the moment. But the unfortunate fact is that the voice we hear the loudest and most often is the voice inside our own heads, which means that kind words from the outside remain just that, sweet sentiments that are easy for me to dismiss.
Sometimes the story we tell ourselves is not really true. Sometimes the story others tell about us is not really true. Here on today's Heart Lift with Janelle, we are going to learn how to rewrite our story. So pick up your favorite pen and journal, grab a cup of something delicious, and start your heart-lifting journey towards living a meaningful life.
Hello and welcome to today's Heart Lift with Janelle. I am excited. I know, I always am. I know. And I was just saying I needed to take a minute and gather myself because I'm smiling so hard already. We have with us today Nicole Zasowski, and today is the launch day of her new book. And it is called, are you ready for this? What If It's Wonderful? What if it's wonderful? I just love this. Welcome, Nicole. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Oh my goodness. What if it's wonderful? The subtitle is Release Your Fears, Choose Joy, and Find the Courage to Celebrate. What a mouthful. So as an author, I say this all the time, Heartlifters, just stay with me. I know how critical a title is, and I know how critical the subtitle is, and I know all the selection of the words that go into it. And you're just hoping and praying that the words will bounce off the book and right into the heart of someone who needs it. And so where did that question, what if it's wonderful? Just right from the get-go. What if it's wonderful? What is that?
Yes.
Where did that come from you?
Yes. So I was sitting in my friend's kitchen, and the story is actually tucked inside the book if you want more details.
Yes.
But I was sitting in my friend's kitchen, and it had been a hard season. And I was sitting at her kitchen countertop, and we were just talking through all of my what if questions. And they were, what if what if I fail? What if I hope and I'm disappointed? What if I try to connect and I'm rejected? All of those fears that we tend to carry into a season of what if. And I know listeners can fill in the blank of their own what if questions.
More than one.
Yes, exactly. And mine, to be fair, was mostly around what if I hope and I'm disappointed. I was really wrestling with what's the point of holding an expectant heart? What is the point of dreaming? Isn't it easier just to practice the worst case scenario and practice disappointment and rehearse disaster? And she was patient with me, and she was sitting with me in my place of hurt like a good friend does. And I had sat in her kitchen many times before. So I'm not sure why I hadn't noticed this cute little wooden sign she has above her window. And it said, "What if it's actually going to be okay?"
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I'm going to cry.
And it just interrupted my feelings of doubt and my negative questions. It was just such a beautiful interruption. And I echoed that question out loud because it just stunned me reading it. And then she turned to me and said, "Oh, sweetie, what if it's wonderful?"
Oh gosh.
Isn't that awesome?
It's the best.
And, so it became a question that I held in my pocket to interrupt that catastrophic thinking that I so often rely on to try and protect myself. And you know how book title conversations go. Sometimes you have a working title.
Yeah.
And then it changes right before you finish. And, the publisher sort of decides. And this came to us pretty early. It wasn't in the first batch, but I kept coming back to it of, this is the question that I use in my daily life. And my publisher loved it.
I'm so happy they did.
Yes. And so that's been a favorite element, I think, for readers, because I do think we all have what if questions, and most of those are filled in negatively.
They are, depending on
what if I fail, and what if I disappointed, and what if I'm rejected, and all these things. So to have one that turns our heart toward hope and cultivates joy and an expectant heart, even in the midst of a season of suffering, because this book truly is for both. It's one of the things I wanted to do is to broaden our definition of celebration.
Good. That's what I loved about it, actually. That's why I love you sitting here, and I have just a million questions just, spinning in my mind about that, to have a broadened understanding of suffering. I don't think that it has been taught to its fullest extent. So I'm so glad your voice is here on International Women's Day. Yes. This is when we're taping it.
Yes.
And so that we can hear what you have to say, so that we can understand. Before we got started, I said to you that I think personally, one of the greatest challenges in my own life, and then in my practice, I have a trauma-informed practice. So it is a little unusual. I do. So you're a licensed marriage and family therapist. And so I know that you understand the hard stories of life that people bring to you. And they're not typically going to come to me if they're in a good place. So it's a bit one-sided, but hopefully we can get them to a good place. But I have found the greatest challenge is to be happy.
Yeah.
Especially if you've had a childhood trauma-informed upbringing, or perhaps had some traumatization happen to you, or just in this painful life we live in. Is that related to your topic? Like, that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, what if it's wonderful? To me is like, I think of that title all the time. Like, it's really hard to be happy. Okay. That's a little too blunt for a title. But when I saw yours, I was like, what if it's wonderful? Like, it reframes it, and it just, you can't say it. What if it's wonderful? You can't say wonderful without some emotive, like hope inducing motive,
Yeah.
So would you say that's related? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So when we think of joy, what most of us don't realize is it's actually the most vulnerable feeling to feel,
Okay.
because
Teach us.
when you hold on to something, it automatically is accompanied with the possibility of loss or disappointment because you're entering
Oh.
into that experience. So, we often say, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's this suspicion of joy
Ooh.
when
Mm.
we enter into a season of good news or a moment of breakthrough.
Yeah.
We have this narrative that a lot of us carry around of, this is too good to be true, or maybe
Yes.
a spiritual distortion around, I've had it good for a long time. When is God going to balance it out with something hard?
Boy,
Which,
that's all. I've heard every one of those. I've said every one of
yeah,
those.
yeah. And so, when you've gone through something really painful, whether it's a season or a crisis or, a moment, a loss, a betrayal, whatever it is, there's the loss itself, there's the thing itself, and then there's the cost. And the cost is the impact to our identity and our sense of safety.
Okay, speak. Just we love to say here in this community, Nicole, and they're already anticipating me going, lean in here. This is a
Good.
teaching moment. This is what we want to take away. If you
I'm
could
happy
repeat
to.
that, and if you could expound upon that a bit. Yes.
Sure. So there's the loss itself, there's the
Yeah.
painful event, and often we stop there.
Mhm.
We think the hurt is the event itself.
Yeah.
And while that is the trigger and pain quickly follows that event, what's more helpful to ask ourselves is, how did this thing, this event or relationship rupture, whatever it is,
Mhm.
make me feel about myself?
Yeah.
That's the identity piece.
Mhm.
Or make me feel about my situation or the relationship,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
is
you
the
said a sense
safety
of
piece.
safety. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is that
And
secure attachment we talk so much about in this community.
yes,
Right.
exactly. All that great attachment research
Mhm.
would be on that safety side. And so what it took me a really long time to realize, because this season was actually, or this book was actually born out of a season of pain and change
Mm.
and loss,
Mm.
was that one of the biggest costs for me was that joy was accompanied by a lot of fear. That
Oh.
I was
Mm.
sad and grieved, really, when I realized, of course, there was the loss itself, but a lot of the loss I was experiencing was my refusal to embrace joy.
Wow. What did that look
And
like? Can you share? And you do not have to at all. Share a picture of that suffering. Like, what was that, and how did
yeah,
you refuse that joy?
yes. And
Okay.
if you're interested, I'm happy to
I'm so
share.
interested.
And if you're interested, that story is outlined in my first book, From Lost to Found.
Perfect.
Um,
Okay.
if you're listening and want to hear more,
Oh, I think
um,
they're hand in hand. I mean, the journey,
yeah,
what you're referring to, Nicole, is your first book, From Lost to Found. And the subtitle is what got me.
yeah,
Giving up what you think you want for what will set you free.
yes,
And I told you before we came on, I was so tempted, because that's where I'm sitting right now in my own
mm,
personal life, is giving up what I think I want
mm,
for what will actually set you free. So I think these books are so intertwined
they are.
that you can't
They're
just buy
very.
one. I have both. I got them both on Kindle,
Oh, thank you.
and I encourage everyone to do that, because I think I'm going back and forth,
Mm,
it's kind of been cool. Um, so yeah, if you could just share a little bit of what that
yeah,
actually
yeah.
means.
So it was a season that started with a move across the country that came as a big surprise.
Oh boy. Yikes.
I was very settled in my life in California, and
Oh, California.
I
I was
know.
born there.
Oh, it's such a wonderful place.
Mhm.
And I describe my life there as comfortable, not in the sense that it was luxurious or opulent in any way, but I've learned that sometimes the enemy works through attacking in a really obvious way, but often, at least in my life, his work has looked more like making me comfortable without Christ.
Yeah. Oh,
and that is the perfect description of what my life in California was, although I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
I had a strong faith and I had a love for Jesus, but I didn't realize that my identity and security were more invested in my hard work, my accomplishments, pleasing other people, my own performance. And when I left quite suddenly for my husband's job, I couldn't take those things with me.
No.
And I realized that my sense of self was attached and invested in all the wrong things, and it crumbled. But what that gave me was an opportunity to rebuild on a firmer foundation. And it gave me empty hands to receive Christ in a way that I had not before.
Did that take a while?
Oh, a really long time. I'm not sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I think we're still going on that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of a lifetime journey, maybe. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. 12 years later, I think we're still.
12
working.
years it's been. Okay.
Yep.
All righty.
But little did I realize that was just the beginning of that season. My husband and I suffered through 5 miscarriages in so many years.
Oh boy. Wow. So you didn't have any children at that point when you moved across the country?
No, we did not. We were really young, had only been married a year.
Okay.
And in the process discovered a diagnosis that there was no cure for, but would make it more likely for me to miscarry a pregnancy than not.
Okay. I've just gone through that with my daughter-in-law, actually, the last 6 years.
Oh, I'm so
but
sorry.
Goodness.
Okay.
They're right at 10 weeks from their second transplant. So we're just hoping and praying, but that is agony.
It is.
Agony. So thank you for opening up your heart. And because I know that your story is definitely going to heart lift someone who is in the agony of that. Yes. So you're moving across country from all the comforts. Little baby eagles are being pushed out.
Yes.
I know. I love how the mama eagle gets the babies out of the nest. And I think God does the same. He just takes away everything that's comfortable.
Yes. And that ended up, for obvious reasons, being the best thing that could ever happen to me.
Wow.
But it was really painful. And of course, that chronic loss and
5 years and 5 years, 5 miscarriages?
Yes. And then periods of not getting pregnant at all mixed in there, and, failed fertility treatments and just a lot of different losses from different angles in the fertility conversation.
It's tough.
It was. And
so tough.
I get you're a trauma-informed therapist. There was a trauma to an exam chair for me. And
without a doubt. I got chills. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, tick-tock of the clock. Been there. Yes, I can feel it. It's rising in me. I'm feeling very...
You understand.
I do.
So as I don't think our seasons are ever all pain and all joy, but we did start experiencing some breakthrough. We now have 3 children.
You have 3? Oh,
by God's grace.
Be to God. Oh my goodness. All by natural birth, or some brought to you by other ways? Or?
Yes. God worked through the miracle of IVF for the for our first son. And then I had several that was not working. And I had several failed treatments and was at my lowest spot, sitting in my fertility doctor's office. And he told me, there's nothing more I can do for you. I don't know what to do. And I didn't know that I was pregnant with my second son at that time. Yeah.
Oh, Nicole, oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was such a a delightful surprise. That was Charlie. And then
Charlie, love it.
and
Love
he
it.
is determined as ever. So the
Yeah,
fact
he's
that
here,
was
baby.
him,
How old is he?
he is not just shy of 2.5.
Oh, he's a wee one. And how old's your oldest?
6.
Oh my, you have 3
Yeah.
under 6 and you're sitting here with me.
Yes. And so my second 2 are 14 months apart.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my daughter, I always thought, our story, we're just going to have miscarriages in between our kids. And so we gave up the notion that we were going to plan anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were very aware of our lack of control. And that was a gift too, honestly.
How about that? Wow.
To release our grip on our own control and plans was a beautiful thing, but my daughter was healthy.
Oh, praise be to God in heaven.
So
3 babies.
Yeah. So she is just over 1.
Oh gosh, I am so honored that you're sitting here. Oh my goodness.
Yes. No, it's fun to talk with you. So, but as we were entering this season and with other joys too, just feeling more settled in our community and some fun work things for both my husband and I, I was so hesitant to embrace that joy and connect fully with it. Not so much connect with my kids. I'm really, really grateful that God allowed me to bond there. But it was really, really tough to not rehearse disaster and prepare emotionally for the worst case scenario, which the research says doesn't work.
It doesn't. I wonder if are you aware? You're going to say, are you aware of the Enneagram? I don't know many therapists who are not. What is your number? Do you know?
Well, this is my constant debate. I
bet your type does something.
Yes. So I believe I am a 2 with a very strong 3 wing, but it's quite possible that I am a 3 with a very strong 2 wing.
Okay. No 6 in there at all, which is very curious.
So most people look at my cover and they think I'm a 7, and then they read the
yes. Yes. I like to say, because I'm a 2 strong 3 wing, but I've done so much work anyway that I now can be operating as a healthy 4. But my second book, Overcoming Hurtful Words, was it's my whole story of healing the shadows of my 2 sides. So now I just laugh because I knew nothing about the Enneagram at that point. But now I'm like, if you want to heal as an Enneagram 2 and find out your shadows, just read my second book, because now I'm like, whoa, that probably was just a research project for me. I'm not sure that.
Well, it sounds like I need to check that out.
It's so true though. I was like, wow, all those shadows. Okay. So the worst case scenarios, would you say though, that you are typically, okay, I'm leading to something with this because I'm so intrigued by chapter 4.
Okay. Protective
pessimism. Okay. I know this is going to resonate with so many of my clients. They know who they are.
Yes.
Can you describe for me, because I think it's probably related to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What on earth is protective pessimism? Is it something you made up yourself? Is it a true diagnosis? Inform us all. I need to know.
So as a therapist, I practice a model called restoration therapy. And we would say that when you feel emotional pain, either about your identity or your sense of safety, we tend to protect ourselves in 1, 2, 3, or 4, all 4 of 4 ways.
Okay.
Blame, getting really angry, sarcastic, everything is everyone else's fault. Shame, beating ourselves up.
Oh, we talk a lot about that here. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And that you have a whole chapter on that as well.
Yes, exactly. Because that's related to the conversation. And then control, lots of faces of control. This is a tricky one because in American culture, a lot of those things are really celebrated. So performance, perfectionism, micromanaging. Yeah, I'll raise my hand here.
Yep. Lots of type
controlling
3-ness
other
there,
people.
Enneagram type 3-ness, but
Yep.
also the 2s, right? Just for our
Yep.
Enneagram informed listeners, right?
Yep. Achievement oriented.
Mhm.
And then escape. And again, lots of phases of escape, but anything we might use to numb out, check out emotionally and mentally. And so pessimism in this context is really falls in that control bucket. It's a way of trying to become invulnerable to that disappointment and that hurt. If I can just anticipate and practice all of those worst case scenarios, then it won't hurt that bad when I fall. I also, with my clients, I sometimes use the image of flying low, like if you just stay low to the ground,
right? The ground's not so far away.
You won't fall so far. So the research says, though, that this is actually completely ineffective, that we do not protect ourselves from that disappointment or devastation by anticipating it.
Wow.
But because our eyes are cast down, looking for the worst case scenario and hyper vigilant for that pain that must be just around the corner, we do miss out on a lot of delight and good things that are happening in our lives. It protects ourselves from the good stuff.
Oh, Heartlifters, I know I hate to stop too, but we must. But stay tuned for next week's part 2 because it is even better. Nicole's words are so powerful, and I have a lot to meditate on from this conversation. I want to read from page 27 in her book. One of the reasons we are hesitant to celebrate, of course, is that we feel we are not worthy of celebration. Shame prevents us from celebrating grace. We are stalwart in our belief that celebration must only come in the form of a reward. If you accomplish the goal or if you participated in the effort, then and only then do you get to celebrate. We've allowed the voice of shame to become louder than the message of the cross, the message of freely given grace, because we are committed to earning the right to celebrate. Here we are, the closing days of our Easter pilgrimage. And so I think it's very appropriate that we take time as we're moving towards our Easter Hallelujah to consider those words again. I'll read them again. We have allowed the voice of shame to become louder than the message of the cross, the message of freely given grace, because we are committed to earning the right to celebrate. She writes, Shame also places a filter on input from the outside, readily accepting negative messages without question and rejecting affirmation. Our brains are little help to us here. Neuroscientist Rick Hansen says that our minds are Velcro for negative information and Teflon for positive information. Professor Roy E. Baumeister confirms that positive feelings are weaker and more fleeting than negative emotions, which tend to linger and be stronger. For instance, painful messages that we are alone, inadequate, and worthless will loiter longer in our brains than the truth that we are valuable, prized, and full of worth. Okay, so I'm going to close this out there with our beautiful heart-lifting mandate mantra. This week, as you are making your way through, as you're listening and re-listening and probably taking notes, because I took so many notes in my own conversation with Nicole, please speak healing words to yourself. Send new, positive, life-giving messages that Christ actually means for you to hear. I have value, worth, and dignity. Christ went to the cross, my dear Heartlifter, so that you would understand and possess that beautiful truth. Until next time.
Thanks for listening today. It was great having you here. For even more great content and resources, please join the Stronger Everyday online community at JanelleRaridan.com. Always remember, you, my friend, have value, worth, and dignity.